Okay, stop what you're doing right now, seriously, because what I'm about to tell you is either the most exciting thing that could possibly happen to this franchise, or it's the kind of move that could blow up everything we've been building. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. The rumor that is circulating right now in NBA circles has the potential to completely reshape the Toronto Raptors as we know them. We're talking about Giannis Antetokoumpo, the Greek Freak, a two-time MVP and a champion potentially coming to Toronto. And before we dive all the way into this, because trust me, we are going deep today. If you are not subscribed to this channel yet, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button right now. We cover the Raptors at the highest level, and on a day like today, when a rumor this massive is dominating the NBA conversation, you need to be here. All right, let's get into it. So let's start at the very beginning. Why is this rumor everywhere right now? Why is every NBA fan page, every analyst, every comment section absolutely losing its mind over the idea of Giannis in a Raptors jersey? Because it didn't just appear out of thin air. There's actual logic behind it. There are actual dots being connected by people who follow this league closely. And when you line them all up, the picture that emerges is genuinely fascinating. The Raptors have spent the last couple of years quietly and deliberately building one of the most flexible rosters in the entire NBA. They've stockpiled draft picks, they've assembled a young core that has real value on the trade market, and they've structured their contracts in a way that gives them serious financial flexibility heading into the next phase of their rebuild. This wasn't an accident. This was a front office making calculated decisions with a specific end goal in mind, and that end goal is acquiring a superstar. The question has always been which superstar and when. And right now, all roads seem to be leading toward one name, Giannis Antetokoumpo. Now, let me be completely honest with you about where we are with this rumor, because I think it's important to be straight with our community. There is no official confirmation, no Adrian Wojnarowski breaking news alert, no Shams Charania tweet dropping at midnight. What we have right now is a significant amount of noise, insiders talking, analysts speculating, fan pages connecting dots, and that noise has a habit in the NBA of turning into something real. We've seen it happen before. We've seen rumors that seemed absolutely wild eventually become franchise-altering trades. So while I'm not here to tell you this is definitely happening, I am absolutely here to tell you that this deserves a serious, thorough conversation. Because if there's even a 15% chance this becomes reality, Raptors fans need to understand what it means. So why Giannis specifically? Why is his name the one being attached to Toronto and not some other superstar? Let's think about this from a pure basketball perspective, because that's where the conversation starts. Right now, the Raptors are a good team, like genuinely good. They're winning more games than anyone expected. Scotty Barnes is developing into something truly special. Brandon Ingram has proven he belongs among the elite scorers in this league. The young pieces are exciting. The culture feels right. But if we're being brutally honest, and I always try to be brutally honest on this channel, there is a ceiling on what this team can accomplish without a truly dominant, game-changing superstar. And Giannis is exactly that. He is the definition of a player who makes a team instantly different. We're talking about a guy who changes the geometry of an entire game just by being on the floor. His size, his athleticism, his ability to dominate on both ends, there is nobody else in the NBA quite like him. And if you put him alongside Scotty Barnes, alongside Brandon Ingram, with the depth this roster has built up, that's not just a playoff team, that's a championship conversation immediately. But here's the part of this story that is really fueling the speculation fire, because it's not just about what the Raptors need, it's about what's happening on Giannis's end. And this is where things get genuinely interesting. There have been reports, not rumors, actual reports from credible people suggesting that things are not entirely smooth in Milwaukee. There are questions being asked about the franchise's direction. There's been frustration bubbling beneath the surface. There are injury concerns that have cast a shadow over the team's immediate future. Now look, I want to be careful here, because I'm not going to sit here and say Giannis is definitely unhappy or that he's demanded a trade. That's not what the information says. But what I will say is this: in the NBA, small signals matter. Tiny cracks in the foundation can become massive fractures very quickly, and when a player of Giannis's caliber is even remotely connected to uncertainty on his current team, the entire league starts paying attention. Every front office picks up the phone, every agent starts making calls, and the Raptors, with their assets and their flexibility, would be absolutely foolish not to at least be in that conversation. Now let's get into the part of this that I know every Raptors fan wants to hear. Can we actually pull this off? Like, forget the emotion emotion for a second and let's just talk pure logistics. What would a Giannis trade actually look like? Because this is where things get complicated, and I think it's really important to understand the cost of making a move like this before you decide whether you're for it or against it. To acquire a player of Giannis's caliber, a player who is arguably still in or near the prime of his career, you are looking at a package that would include multiple first-round draft picks. We're probably talking 3, 4, maybe even 5 first-rounders. You're looking at young players being included, which means some of the exciting pieces we've been watching develop would be heading out the door. We're potentially talking about picks that could become really valuable if the Raptors continue their upward trajectory, and depending on how the deal is structured, you could also be looking at significant salary being moved, which means some of the core contract pieces on this roster might need to go as part of the package. This is not a small thing. This is not a minor tweak to the roster. This is the kind of trade that fundamentally changes who the Toronto Raptors are for the next 5 to 7 years. And the Raptors, to their credit, are one of the very few teams in the NBA that actually have the asset base to make an offer serious enough to even be considered. Most teams can't do this. Most teams either don't have the picks or don't have the tradable contracts or don't have the young talent that Milwaukee or any other team would want in return. The Raptors have built themselves into a position where they genuinely can make a run at a player like this. That is not nothing. That is years of strategic planning paying off. But then we have to ask the other side of the question, and honestly, this might be the most important part of the whole conversation. Would Giannis even want to come to Toronto? Because in the NBA, a trade like this only works if the player involved is on board. Superstars have power in this league. They have no trade clauses, they have leverage. And if Giannis doesn't want to be here, none of the asset packages in the world matter. So let's think about this honestly. Toronto is not Los Angeles. It's not Miami. It's not the glamour markets that typically attract superstar free agents and trade targets. But here's what Toronto does have that people consistently underestimate. It is a legitimate, well-run basketball organization with a fan base that is absolutely passionate and loyal, with a history of winning, and with a roster that is already competitive and ascending. We have already seen one of the greatest players of his generation come to this city, feel the energy of this fan base, play in front of a crowd that literally made the ground shake, and win a championship. Kawhi Leonard came to Toronto and won a title. That story exists. That precedent exists. And any superstar considering their options has to at least acknowledge that Toronto can be a place where you win. There's also something else worth considering here. Giannis is not the type of player who is chasing a lifestyle destination. He's not coming to a city for the beaches or the nightlife. He's coming to win. He's coming to compete. He's coming to be in a place where the organization is serious and the roster around him gives him a real shot. And if you look at what the Raptors have built, the young talent, the culture, the coaching, there is a genuine argument to be made that Toronto gives him a legitimate path to another championship. Now let's talk about the other side of this, because I'd be doing you a disservice if I just sold you on the upside without talking about the risk. And the risk here is real. To get Giannis, you are almost certainly gutting significant portions of what makes this roster exciting right now. The draft picks that you trade away could have been used to develop the next great Raptors team organically. The young players who go in the package, some of those guys might become all-stars somewhere else. And you're betting everything on a window that, while potentially incredible, is also finite. Giannis is not 22 years old anymore. His injury history, while not alarming, is something that has to factor into the conversation. You are making an enormous commitment financially and in terms of assets for a player whose peak years may be limited to a specific window. And if that window closes without a championship, you could find yourself in a really difficult spot, stripped of picks, stripped of young talent, and without the superstar you gave everything for. But here's the thing that I keep coming back to. The Raptors made this exact gamble in 2019. They gave up DeMar DeRozan, a franchise icon, a fan favorite, a guy who meant everything to this city, and they traded for Kawhi Leonard. And the whole city was torn apart by it. Fans were devastated. People said it was a betrayal. And then Kawhi did that, and the confetti fell. And the whole city lost its mind in the best possible way. Sometimes the bold move is the right move. Sometimes you have to sacrifice the comfort of what you have for the possibility of something extraordinary. So here's where I land on all of this. Right now, this is a rumor. It is not confirmed. There is no deal in place, but it is not a fantasy either. It is a legitimate, credible conversation that is happening at the highest levels of NBA circles. The Raptors have the assets to make a run at a player like Giannis. The situation in Milwaukee has enough uncertainty to make a move plausible. And the basketball logic of putting Giannis on this roster alongside Scotty Barnes, alongside Brandon Ingram, is absolutely undeniable. If this happens, it changes everything instantly, completely, permanently. And if it doesn't happen, the Raptors still need to make a significant move this offseason to avoid getting stuck in that dangerous middle ground we've been talking about. But what do you think? Is this the move? Is this the moment where Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster make the call that defines this franchise for the next decade? Or is this too much risk, too much cost for a player who may or may not want to be here? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because I genuinely want to know where the Raptors community stands on this. This is one of those moments where the conversation matters. And if anything develops on this story, and I mean anything, we will be covering it immediately in full right here. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you've got notifications turned on, because if Giannis is really coming to Toronto, you do not want to find out about it from someone else.